And another one. What's going on, guys? Back with another MMA ranking video. I did my top 30 plus honorable mentions, greatest fighters of all time. And typically, I know that, at least I know from all the people I watch mixed martial arts with, in my own taste, I know that a lot of people tend to really not like the lower weight classes. They also really don't like to watch the women. They think the women are boring, things of that nature, because they're just not as big, as fast, as strong, and like all that stuff is, just, common sense, common knowledge. But I decided I'm going to do my top 20 greatest female fighters of all time. And some of these fighters, a few people, like, unless you're not a diehard MMA fan, watch other organizations or, just really, I don't like to use the word casual, really, because it sounds like kind of like an insult. But if you're not like a diehard MMA fan, you might not know who some of these fighters are. So we're going to roll with this, my top 20 greatest female fighters of all time. So I have a couple honorable mentions here. I didn't do too many honorable mentions because women's MMA, in terms of, we've gotten to a point where women are getting a lot better at the sport. There's more years behind it, more training, more women are getting into the sport. You very shortly, you go from really, really great to, decently great, and then it kind of falls off the cliff because the talent discrepancy from the top and the bottom, once you get to the mid areas to the bottom, is very massive. And a lot of that, as you'll see, as a reoccurring trend, is the physicality between some of the women at the top. I'm sure that'll change as more athletes get into the game. It's something that, I harp on, that people don't understand, that if you're a higher level athlete, you can apply skills, to a very more effective, efficient, higher degree, things of that nature. So it kind of got a little muddled at the back half of the list. It was a little harder for me to piece some of these fighters together because a lot of fighters were neck and neck. But here are my honorable mentions. Roxanne, the Happy Warrior, Modafferi. So a lot of people don't know Roxanne Modafferi. She's been fighting for, I don't know, forever. I mean, she's got to be in her 40s now. 25-20, 4 KOs and 5 submissions. She has wins over Marlos Kionin, Macy Barber more recently, and Tara La Rosa. Notable losses, she's fought some of the best female fighters in the world. Raquel Pennington, she's also fought Marlos Kionin more than once, Sarah Kaufman, and more recently Jennifer Maya. She's a true mixed martial artist in every sense of the form. This is someone who grew up actually doing martial arts and always says, like, I'm pretty sure she was quoted saying she always wanted to be like a DBZ character. Don't quote me on that, but I know she's into that sort of stuff. Martial arts from a very young age, and then got into fighting. She's one of the pioneers of women's MMA. She's been doing it so long. Very well-rounded fighter. Again, traditional martial arts background. She can grapple. She actually has underrated boxing in terms of technique and her effectiveness as a boxer. But she's not really, not to be offensive, she's not really a good athlete at all. When you watch her fight, you see someone that is like actually a pretty polished fighter. But she's constantly going up against women that can apply, lesser skills to, a more violent degree. And that's where she struggles. And there's a handful of women, at different times that have struggled with the actual physicality of their opponent. Because the gap between different fighters in that sense is way larger than the men's. And don't get me wrong, that happens in the men's divisions too with some fighters. But yeah, Roxanne Modafferi. If you're into women's MMA, if you ask any of the female fighters, they hold Roxanne in high regard, so she gets an honorable mention. This is one that people won't know, but Megumi Fuji, Megu. I don't know. I mean, maybe it just means a big. Say she's bigger than she is. Record 26-3 with 19 submissions. She has a win over Carla Esparza, and I think they fought in Bellator. She's lost to Jessica Aguilar twice. She's fought mostly on the regional scene, and there are a few female fighters that I've seen in interviews state that she's the greatest female fighter of all time. Again, she's mostly fought in Japan for her whole entire career, but she's definitely a fighter that proved that she was actually very skilled and very dangerous. She doesn't make the list because we just don't know how good she could have been had she fought in like Bellator, Invicta, UFC. I actually think she would have fared very well. Aggressive fighter with really good takedowns, and very high level submission artist. Known for tolls and arm bars. A very aggressive, athletic fighter, very explosive, very tenacious. And I think that in itself, given her skill set and the way she used to approach fighting, would have made her very formidable when she was in her prime against the fighters, of her weight class, abroad. Like I said, mostly fought in Japan, and she was late to the MMA game. Like, she didn't really start taking like higher level fights until she was late into her MMA career, which has been fighting a long time. And she's a pioneer of women's MMA. Yeah, so she gets an honorable mention for me. So Michelle, the Karate Hottie Waterson, now Waterson Gomez, record 18-13 with 3 KOs and 8 submissions. Notable wins: Karolina Kowalkiewicz, Jessica Penne, Angela Hill, Paige VanZant, and Felice Herrig. Notable losses: Joanna Jacek, Carlos Barza, Rose Namajunas, and Tisha Torres. Her accomplishments: she was the Invicta Atomweight champion, and she defended that title 1 time. Well-rounded martial artist with a diverse striking arsenal. She actually had a very diverse striking arsenal. A lot of her skill was revolved around her kicks, turn and side kick, spin and back kick, really good teep kicks. She actually liked to throw the axe kick around a lot. Really good jab, and was not scared to get inside and mix it up and throw bombs at girls. And an underrated grappler as well. Actually had a lot of really good takedowns from the clinch. Used to toss girls around, even though she had like a small frame. But being substantially smaller hasn't served her well in her career. She, in my opinion, was a true atom weight. She's only like about 5'2", and I don't know if I've ever seen a fight where she wasn't substantially smaller than her opponent. That being said, she still gave girls really good fights. She actually, when she got to her peak in the UFC, she actually fought a lot of the greatest girls to tough decisions. Now, down the stretch, she lost a bunch of fights in a row, like 6 in a row, which kind of sullied her record. But she had a good fight with Liana and Jacek where they battled. Some people make the argument she beat Carlos Esparza in her split decision loss. But at one point, she was as tough as they come, as game as they come, and as skilled as they come. I just really think she was always fighting above her weight. So Michelle Waterson, to me, gets an honorable mention. All right, now to the greatest female fighters of all time. Starting at number 20, Juliana Pena, the Venezuela Vixen, record 11-5, 3 KOs and 5 subs. Notable wins: Amanda Nunes, Kat Zingano, Sarah McMahon, and Jessica Ai. Notable losses: Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, and Jermaine Durandamy. All good fighters. Accomplishments: UFC Bantamweight champion 1 time, beating Amanda Nunes, which that fight was wild because, as I stated below, I've always thought Juliana Pena had the tools to be very successful in her career. I didn't expect her to knock Amanda Nunes out. It was just crazy. I mean, sometimes, champions get complacent and don't take someone seriously. And in a sport like MMA, if you're not taking someone seriously, it's that sneaky skill set come up and club you. But she's a really good wrestler with a heavy top game. Pretty good at taking girls down in most of her fights. And if she gets top position, whether it be, half guard, full mount, she's pretty aggressive and heavy when it comes to her ground and pound. Striking defense cost her in key fights, in my opinion. She's been knocked out a handful of times. Not the best striker. She's a very good athlete. She's got pretty decent heavy hands. Just not as polished in terms of her boxing offense, especially her defense. She gets hit a lot. But if she would have had better game plans, I think she could have stayed on top a little longer. Like, I thought she was going to wrestle Nunes. And I personally thought that's what she was going to do the second fight. And then she, fought a similar game plan and lost. But still, Juliana Pena, number 20. Number 19, Raquel Rocky Pennington. Record 16-8, 1 KO, 4 subs. Notable wins: Jessica Andrade, Misha Tate, Irene Aldana, Macy Chesson, and Ketlin Vieira. Notable losses: she's only lost to good people for the most part. Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm 2 times, and Jessica Andrade. Accomplishments: UFC Bantamweight champion 1 time, and she is the current Bantamweight champion. She's as tough as they come, super durable. I wrote meat and potato style fighter. You know, she's kind of a Randy Couture, pressure, dirty box, grinded out along the fence fighter. Grinds fight out with her boxing, like I said, and her pressure could rise up this list with some title defenses. I'd have to see, you know, what opponents are, you know, lined up and next for her. But like I've stated before, in divisions where a lot of times the competition, you know, is very susceptible to overt physicality, you know, she probably won't ever beat Nunes. Obviously, she lost to Nunes. I think she lost to her twice. I'm not sure. Once or twice. I don't see her ever beating someone like Nunes, but she's a very tough out for any girl that fights her for the most part. And like I said, struggled against the top tier class, you know, of top tier of women. I mean, Amanda Nunes, Holly Holm, just super technical. She's tough to deal with. Jessica Andrade is a berserker. It's just hard to come out on the ends of those fights. So, still, nevertheless, number 19, Rocky Pennington. Number 18, Claudia Gadelha. So a lot of people might not like Claudia Gadelha being on this list, but she's on this list because she's actually one of the more skilled female fighters and has one of the better records. 18-5, 2 KOs and 7 subs. She has notable wins over Carlos Esparza, Karolina Kovacevic, Jessica Aguilar, and Angela Hill. Notable losses: Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2 times, Jessica Andrade, and Yan Jinan. She's a really high-level submission grappler. Obviously, she's got 7 submissions. Got a pretty diverse array of takedowns and really, really good at, you know, passing, you know, her opponent's guard and getting to where she wants to set up her submissions and ground and pound. What's held her back is kind of just the lack of striking, you know, an overall MMA skill set, you know. When you go up against girls like Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Jessica Andrade, they're just really, really hard to take down. And when that's your game plan, and if you can't execute it, you know, good luck with that. So, but nevertheless, 18-5 is nothing to sniff at with a win over a champion who has a storied career, and actually being a pretty skilled fighter. Claudia Gadelha, 18. So this is one that people won't know unless you've watched MMA a long time, but she's actually one of my favorite fighters, Marlos Kunin. Record 23-18 with 3 KOs and 17 submissions. Notable wins: Sarah Kaufman, Liz Carmouche, and Roxanne Modafferi. Notable losses: Cyborg 2 times, Misha Tate, and Julia Budd. Accomplishments: Strikeforce Bantamweight champion with 1 title defense. High-level submission artist. You know, at one time she was dubbed the female Hickson. Solid kickboxer, too. And she's an early pioneer of women's MMA. Marlies Kunin was always fun to fight, fun to watch fight. Not the best athlete and most physical fighter, but really solid kickboxer. Wasn't scared to mix things up and pressure girls to get the takedowns she wanted. And when she got on the ground, she was just, you know, deadly on the mat against most of her opponents. Fought top-tier op later in her career and struggled with the physicality of girls like Tate and Cyborg. Again, another woman who's very skilled that falls victim to that. It's, you know, Cyborg pretty much steamrolls everyone that's not Nunes, and, you know, Tate, very physical and, you know, strong grappler in her own right. So, Marlies Kunin, number 17. Jermaine Durandamy. So, I was telling a buddy on as a side note, I feel like if I'm being fully honest, I have to include Jermaine Durandamy in this list. But it pained me to my bones to add someone who won the title and then refused to fight for a while. Because she was... I don't like to say fighters are scared of each other, but the lack of a better word, I have to say it. Like, she basically got fucking forced to fight Amanda Nunes. I'm pretty sure she was going to get stripped and shit. And it's like kind of like some bully shit to me. Like, Jermaine Durandamy is bigger than Nunes. and bullied girls in these weight classes throughout her short career. And then the second you want to fight someone that's physically your superior in skill set, you're going to come up with a million excuses to fight her. Okay, I'm going to stop ranting about it, but she's still one of the greatest female fighters of all time, whether it's kickboxing and MMA. Number 16, Jermaine the Iron Lady Durandamy. Record 10-5 of 4 KOs and a sub. She has wins over Holly Holm, Raquel Pennington, Juliana Pena, and Julie Kenzie. Pretty good wins. Amanda Nunes, she lost to her 2 times, and she lost to Norma Dumont. UFC featherweight champion 1 time. Like I said, she was massive for a weight class and a world-class female kickboxer. Just a really good technical kickboxer, hit like a truck, you know. Like I said, she had fun beating up on all these girls smaller than her and shit on her way to the title, but when you run into the GOAT, that shit fucking flies out the window real quick. Lack of longevity in MMA and as a champion is the only thing that holds her back. I mean, who's to say that if she wasn't, like, focused and really fucking trained hard and stuff for it, like, she probably could have given Nunes better fights and stuff. Who knows? She could have maybe been on top, but that shit don't sit well with me. But I gotta keep it trill. Gotta keep it a buck. Jermaine Durandamy, 16. Number 15, Alexis Alligator Davis. So another girl that a lot of people probably didn't watch much of if you're a new fighter. Alexis Davis, 21-11, 2 KOs and 8 submissions. She's got wins over Amanda Nunes. It's actually crazy who she's beaten at different times in their careers, but Amanda Nunes, Liz Carmouche 2 times, Sarah Kaufman, Tanya Evinger 2 times. People don't know Tanya Evinger. She's a pioneer of women's MMA. And Julie Kedzie. Notable losses, Ronda Rousey, Sarah Kaufman, and Caitlin Chukagian. She was a really good submission grappler with good control and active ground and pound. A very strong fighter for her division, and, you know, most of her game plan was boxing to get inside and get top position and look to submit women. She kind of got to the UFC a little late where she had most of her meaningful fights, you know. And it was kind of literally obviously on the very back nine of her career. So we didn't really get to see, you know, possibly not the best of her. She was actually a really underrated fighter. So number 15, Alexis Davis. Number 14, another one that a lot of people might not have watched much of, Sarah Kaufman, 22-5, 11 KOs and 2 subs. Notable wins, Miesha Tate, Alexis Davis 2 times, Valerie Letourneau, Liz Carmouche, and Roxanne Modafferi. Notable losses, Valentina Shevchenko, Ronda Rousey, and Marlies Kunin. Accomplishments, she was a Strikeforce Bantamweight champion, defended that title 1 time. She was also the 1-time Invicta Bantamweight championship before the UFC purchased it. She was very big for the Bantamweight division, solid boxing with good power. Beat a lot of girls up, just really good straightforward boxing, and really good at not getting taken down. Defensive grappling was really solid. Tough. She was tough for a lot of girls to deal with. Aggression, punching power. A lot of women can't deal with that. As she got, you know, into the UFC and stuff like that, she kind of struggled with the speed and the athleticism of the top women's bantamweights. But other than that, you know, she was actually a really, really good fighter. Probably an underrated fighter, you know, sitting at 22-5. And she was a finisher. Sarah Kaufman, 14. Number 13, Miesha Cupcake Tate, record 20-9, 4 KOs, 8 submissions. Notable wins, Liz Carmouche, Holly Holm, Sarah McMahon, Jessica Eye, Julie Kenzie, and Marlies Kunin. Notable losses, Amanda Nunes, Ronda Rousey 2 times, Kat Zingano, and Raquel Pennington. UFC Bantamweight champion 1 time, where she beat Holly Holm. Strikeforce Bantamweight champion 1 time. She was actually, in her early years, she was actually a very good and very aggressive grappler. One thing you can't say about Miesha Tate was Miesha Tate was a beast, especially early on in her career. She was just bite down on her mouthpiece straight up like you'd see her teeth. And she would just come forward throwing bombs on girls until they crashed into the fence, and she would take girls down. And she was really pacey early on, had good cardio. Personally, I think, you know, her aggression gets to her at times, and I don't think she makes the best decisions in terms of transitional MMA. I think she should have grappled more at different times in her career. But other than that, she's put together a solid career. She's always been marketable, ambassador for the sport. She's always commentating fights and things of that nature as an analyst, and you know, she's a staple for women's MMA. So, and a champion. So Miesha Tate, number 13. Number 12, Alexa Grasso. So a lot of people would say that, I've seen a lot of people's say that Alexa Grasso is like a top 10 fighter. I personally think she'll get there. I just don't think she's done enough yet. So she sits here at number 12. Her record is 16-3 with 4 KOs and 2 subs. She has a win over Valentina Shevchenko, Macy Barber, and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Notable losses: Carlos Esparza and Tatiana Suarez. Again, she's only 16-3. I mean, losing to Carlos Esparza, that's nothing to get mad at. But she's the current UFC flyweight champion. She has an actually really well-rounded skill set. She could grapple offensively and defensively, and she's a really crisp striker, preferably a really crisp boxer. I actually think she has, solid defense and just really good offensive output. I think she's a smart and a crafty fighter. Could move up on this list with longevity as a champion. She fights Valentina Shevchenko next. Valentina was beating her in her first fight, and she managed to submit her late, get her back and submit her late with a rear naked choke. She probably would have lost that fight by decision. Typically, in the first fight, there's like a huge percentage that you win your second fight if you're the winner of the first title matchup. I'm going to have to see if she gets past Shevchenko. She could beat Shevchenko back-to-back. I really think that she has the skills to go on a serious run in this division as champion, and she should move into the top 10. But right now, Alexa Grasso, fun to watch. Seems like a friggin' sweetheart. It's just hilarious because she's like the sweetest, nicest person who goes out here and just beats bitches down. So she sits at number 12. This one might be a little higher on people's list than, higher for people's taste. But when you look at her catalog of who she's beaten, number 11, Jessica Batistaca Andrade, 26-12 with 10 KOs and 8 submissions. Arguably the best finisher in female MMA, you can make the case. Notable wins: Rose Namajunas, Amanda Lemos, Katlyn Chookagian, Mackenzie Dern, Karolina Kovac, Tisha Torres, Pennington, and Angela Hill. Tons of good wins. Losses: Valentina Shevchenko, Weili Zhang, Rose Namajunas, and Yana Jacek. A lot of, obviously, those girls, in my opinion, they're better fighters than her, but she's only fighting the best fighters, and she fights a lot. She's highly active. She was the UFC strawweight champion at one point. Power grapple, physically imposing, like a power, whether she's getting like double underhook body locks and just slamming girls every old which way, or shooting regular takedowns. She gets a lot of her takedowns along the fence, like I said, with body locks and solid trips. But she also has power in her hands. When she hits these girls, they're feeling it. They're kind of just trying to get the fuck out of her way because she's like a bulldozer. In my opinion, what holds her back in her fights is she lacks a higher level of transitional awareness and strategy. I wrote Berserker is her only modality. She just comes forward and throws everything but the kitchen sink. And what's crazy is she actually has a really good gas tank. She reminds me of the female Paulo Costa. Literally could throw everything but the kitchen sink at you for 3 rounds, even 5 rounds. I just think that if she made better decisions in certain fights, and fought a little smarter, because she has all the tools to be a champion. She was a champion, could have had the tools to stay champion even longer, but she's always in the mix. So, number 11, Jessica Andrade. So people might think this is a little low on the list. Number 10, Holly the Preacher's Daughter Holm. But you will hear my reasoning for this now that we've cracked this top 10. Holly Holm, record 15-7 with 8 KOs. Notable wins: Ronda Rousey, Irene Aldana, Megan Anderson, and Raquel Pennington. Notable losses: Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, Cyborg, and Miesha Tate. Accomplishments: UFC bantamweight champion 1 time. High-level kickboxer with KOs, mostly lost to elite fighters. She's only fights the best fighters, and she has a really, really technical kickboxing game. Really good body and head kicks, a really good turning side kick. Fights really well behind her jab, and she's content to fight behind that jab. Doesn't get too crazy with her punching combinations. She's typically throwing, 1-1, 1-1-2. You rarely ever see her throwing hooks. She fights very behind her straight punches and tries to chain her kicks off that. really good takedown defense. And against the fence, she's shown that she could take some women down here and there and beat them up along the fence. She got really good elbows from the clinch. Her style, though, is very linear and very straightforward. And she does a mix of pressuring and then a mix of, counter punching. And she's a very good athlete, but she is susceptible to fighters that are very physical as well. And a lot of the girls that have, exposed her style and beat her are girls that can come forward and push the pace on her and force her to only counter. And she hasn't been able to deal with that physicality. And like against Kayla Harrison, she's shown that, she could stuff takedowns against a lot of the like lesser athletes of the division. But Kayla Harrison just, ragdolled her. She couldn't deal with the cascades of, Cyborg and Nunes. So, and what women can't. But nevertheless, Holly Holm is, a high-level competitor, really good athlete, and, a very skilled fighter. So that's why she sits at number 10. So this one's probably going to come out of left field for people, but, you got to really know the history of women's MMA and know how good these, which fighters are good. And I can make an argument that, Liz Carmouche is one of the most underrated fighters of all time. So she sits here at number 9 for me, the Gorilla. Liz Carmouche, 22-7, 7 KOs and 8 subs. Absolute finisher. She got a good set of wins. Valentina Shevchenko, Jessica Andrade, Caitlin Chukagian, Juliana Vasquez, and Lauren Murphy. Notable losses. She's lost to Valentina Shevchenko, Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, and Sarah Kaufman. Accomplishments. Bellator flyweight champ. And she's defended that title 3 times. Actually going to be fighting soon, I'm pretty sure, to defend it for the 4th time. Power wrestler with serious ground and pound. Finisher and a pioneer of women's MMA. She actually fought Ronda Rousey for the inaugural UFC Bantamweight Championship, when they first bought up, all the other promotions, Invicta included. I would say what holds her back, even though she has a really good record and good wins, I would say just a one-dimensional approach. She hits hard, but for the girls that have upper echelon striking skills, if you could stop her from taking you down in most instances, you should be able to, navigate the looping punches and the power and, win a decision. She's very hard to take out, though. But, yeah, very underrated. Number 9, Liz Gorilla Carmouche. Number 8, Carla the Cookie Monster Esparza. Record 19-7, 4 KOs and 4 subs. Notable wins. She's got good ones. Rose Namajunas 2 times. Alexa Grasso, Michelle Watterson. Underrated Yan Jinan. Cynthia Cavillo and Felice Herrig. Notable losses. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Weili Zhang, and Claudia Gadelha. She basically, in her prime, has only lost to good fighters. Accomplishments. UFC strawweight champion 2 times. Invicta strawweight champion. Strawweight champion 2 times, and the Invicta strawweight champion when it got bought. Solid grappler with good pressure and top control, improved her striking over time. Not the athlete some of the other elite fighters are, female fighters are, and in some ways not the most fun to watch. She's very much a, position over submission wrestling grappler, very, very much about control and winning, kind of sloggy fights. Her boxing got better down the road, but she's a multiple time champion over, more than one organization. And she's got good wins on her resume. I think she's, for the most part, been a very dominant fighter, no matter how much, people think she could possibly be boring and things of that nature. She's still a very effective fighter when she's on top of her game. So, Carla Esparza, number 8. One of my favorite fighters, Weili Magnum Zhang. Record 25-3, 11 KOs, and 8 subs. Notable wins, Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2 times, Jessica Andrade, Carla Esparza, Yao Jinan, Tisha Torres, Amanda Lemos. Notable losses, Rose Namajunas 2 times. Accomplishments, UFC strawweight champion 2 times, 3 total title defenses across the 2 reigns. She is also the current strawweight champion. She got the second most strawweight title wins in UFC history of 5. Just uberly well-rounded. She's just a finisher. High-level kickboxer with just great reaction time and just speed on her punches and kicks. And, for as little as she is, she hits with fucking power, man. She's just so fun to watch. Extremely physical, underrated grappler. Whether she's, offensive grappling or she's doing her thing with her boxing and kickboxing, she could strike at distance, she could strike up close. She's just very good and very comfortable and very physical everywhere she goes, from the beginning to the end of the bout. Just, in my opinion, one of the most fun fighters to watch in all the UFC. Say what you want about that, but she will rise up this list, in my opinion, with more title defenses. And for some of these girls that are current champions that have done a lot, her resume is great, but she's not done yet. I will probably come revise this later, and she will probably rise up this list. I'm for sure believe she'll rise up this list. Number 6, Rose Thug Namajunas, record 13-6. 2 KOs, 5 subs, notable wins: Weili Zhang 2 times, Joanna Jędrzejczyk 2 times, Jessica Andrade, Michelle Waterson, and Tisha Torres. That's quite the win resume. Losses: Jessica Andrade, Carla Esparza, and more recently Manon Fiorot, who's really, really good. Accomplishments: UFC strawweight champion 2 times with 2 title defenses. Probably one of the more unique female fighters. She's tall, long, and rangy with really good counter-striking skills and aggressive submission skills. Sometimes that could be her undoing, throwing some wild stuff here and there. I want to say when she was younger, she threw some crazy submission and hurt herself or some shit and ended up losing the fight as a result. But she used to be a wild woman back in the day. But when she's on top of her game, she's a very cerebral, intelligent fighter. Like I said, really good counter striker. You make any mistakes against her, she could just take you out in a plethora of ways. My only negative about her career so far is I feel like she could have been more consistent, especially as of late. I don't like to get into this too much all the time with fighters, but I feel like I have to say it when I see it. It's like, I really think the only thing that's holding her back from having the ability to be the greatest female fighter of all time, which I think she has the skills to do, is in her head. I've seen times even when she's fighting really well that it's almost like more of she's fighting herself. And a lot of people know about her background, some things she's gone through her childhood and stuff, but I really feel like at times she has, sometimes that self-doubt creeps in and she's not focused for whatever reason. The Jessica Andrade fight, you could chalk that up to her making a decision that resulted in Jessica Andrade dumping her on her head. That's a fight that she's beaten Jessica Andrade. That's probably a fight that she shouldn't have lost, but Rose is the complete package, especially if her head's right. If her head's in the game, there's not a lot of women that could beat her, and if her head's truly in the game, I feel like she could beat any woman they put in front of her. Besides, maybe she can't see her beating someone like Nunes. They're not the same weight class, the physicality, but Rose is one of the best to ever do it. Rose Namajunas, number 6. Number 5, Justine Cyborg Santos. I don't know how people feel about this. You can make the argument that she, throughout her career, she's only fought women that, she could definitely beat or whatnot. And you could talk about, people's speculations of, extracurricular drugs and stuff like that. But I'm not going to get into all that stuff. She's 27-2 with 21 KOs. She's beaten Holly Holm, Kat Zingano, Gina Carano, and Tanya Evinger. Notable losses: Amanda Nunes. That's pretty much it. Accomplishments: UFC featherweight champion 1 time with 2 total title defenses. The Bellator featherweight champion 1 time with 5 total title defenses. The Strikeforce featherweight champion with 2 title defenses. You can make the argument she's been the most physically imposing and devastating female fighter that's ever fought. You can make the argument she's the most dominant champion and has had the most longevity throughout the history of female fighting. I don't think I've ever seen people there's only a handful of people that have probably beaten their opposition throughout their career as handily or as bad as she has. She's just a straight marauder. Downside is women's featherweight hasn't really been that great over the years. She doesn't really have that many meaningful wins. And she's always fought so wild, looping punches. When she ran into Amanda Nunes, Amanda was just too fast, too crisp, physical enough to, if she got into any tough spots with her, she was just physical enough to handle that level of pressure that she brings, and she just pieced her up and creased her up. Again, especially in the women's class, physicality goes a long way. Justine Cyborg Santos, in my opinion, was never really the most skilled fighter throughout her career. She was just that physically imposing. So Justine Cyborg, 5th greatest female fighter of all time. Number 4, Ronda Rousey. So as I go back soon and revisit this, Ronda Rousey's done great things for women's MMA, and she actually has a really wild resume. Even though there are some women that have better quality wins over her, she didn't have a lot of fights, but she definitely put MMA on the map. So originally in my top 30 fighters, I had her on my top 30 fighters, and like I said, I'm going to revisit these lists. No matter whether people like it or not, the next time I revise this list, enough is going to happen where she's probably going to get bumped down. She probably won't get bumped out of the top 10, but the next time I revisit this list, there's probably going to be some women that hop ahead of her, women that I've already talked about. But what she means to the sport at one period of time is exponential. Record 12-2, 3 KOs, 9 subs. Notable wins: Kat Zingano, Miesha Tate, Sarah McMahon, Liz Carmouche, Alexis Davis, and Betch Correia. Notable losses: Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes. Accomplishments: inaugural UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion with 6 title defenses. Strikeforce Women's Bantamweight Champion with 1 title defense. All wins via finish. She has the fastest KO in women's MMA with 16 seconds. She also has the fastest submission in UFC title fights with 14 seconds. She's in the UFC Hall of Fame in the modern wing as of 2018. Pioneer of women's MMA, first female champion in UFC history, dominant title run. What holds her back? Level of competition, notable wins reflected in her last 2 losses. Similar to Cyborg, just a smaller sample size. She was skilled enough at her grappling and her takedowns and her submission skill set, and she was a good enough athlete that, whether you want to hold it against her or not, but she definitely, from a physical standpoint, was just steamrolling women, and I definitely think her aggressiveness and her attitude towards fighting cannot be understated. I think a lot of girls were kind of beat before they even got in there with her because of the way she was running through women in the first half of her career. And again, you can't argue with the run she went on and how dominant she was. So until further notice, Ronda Rousey, number 4. Number 3, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, the Boogie Woman. Record 21-5, 4 KOs, 1 sub. Notable wins: there's many. Claudia Gadelha 2 times, Jessica Andrade, Carla Esparza, Chisa Torres, Juliana Pena, Michelle Watterson, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Valerie Letourneau. Notable losses: Rose 2 times, Valentina 2 times, and Weili Zhang 2 times. Or Valentina Shevchenko 1 time. She's only lost to the elite of the elite. Accomplishments: women's strawweight champion with 5 consecutive title defenses. Most title bouts in women's strawweight history with 9. Most title fight wins in world women's strawweight championship history with 6. UFC Hall of Famer in the modern wing, just inducted. She has elite win resume, and she's a dominant champion. What holds her back? Just not as dominant as the handful of women that have, some of the women that have beaten her and the champions that are above her, as good as you can get, man. Really good takedown defense, just high level, technical, aggressive kickboxing, and used to just put an aggressive pace on women that would just make women melt. She was the Boogie Woman for a reason. Just loved everything about Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She was just a beast. Joanna, number 3. Number 2, back-to-back, some of my favorite fighters. Valentina Bullet Shevchenko, record 23-4, 8 KOs and 7 subs. Notable wins: Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Holly Holm, Juliana Pena, Jessica Andrade, Kayla Jagagi, Jessica Ai, Liz Carmouche, Lauren Murphy, and Talia Santos. Notable losses: she's lost to Amanda Nunes 2 times, although I thought one was a split decision. I thought she won. That's just my opinion, which God, if she would have gotten the nod, it would have helped her case even more. You could have made the argument. You could have made an argument she could have been number one. Alexa Grasso, she also lost recently to Alexa Grasso. They're about to have their rematch. Accomplishments: UFC flyweight champion with 7 consecutive title defenses, most title defenses in women's flyweight history with 8, most consecutive wins in women's flyweight history with 9, most KOs in women's flyweight history with 4, most takedowns in women's flyweight history, which is crazy because striking's her primary skill set, but I can make the argument she's one of the most well-rounded fighters that's ever fought MMA. She's got the most takedowns in women's featherweight history with 39, and all-time elite and well-rounded skill set, dominant champion. She could fight going forward. She could fight going backwards. A really good counter striker, even though her, fighting backwards was very just like linear in terms of like really good feints and popping feints to control distance, backing up and just landing really good shots like her teep kick and solid jab going in reverse. But everything she did on the back foot was to just solidify a foothold of just stopping an opponent in their tracks and then emitting her own offense. Just high-level, aggressive kickboxer, every tool under the sun, and really good grappler. A lot of fights. She took a lot of chicks down, beat them up. She's got 7 submissions. She's just an absolute finisher. What holds her back is just the next woman on the list, and I thought she beat her one time, but the next woman on the list is Amanda the Lioness Nunes. Record 23-5, 13 KOs and 4 subs. I mean, who hasn't she beat? Valentina Shevchenko 2 times, Holly Holm, Cyborg, Irene Aldana, who's underrated, Jermaine Durandame 2 times, Ronda Rousey, Juliana Pena, Raquel Pennington. Most of these women are champions. Notable losses, her knockout loss to Juliana Pena, and then she lost one time to Kat Zingano, who's underrated. Accomplishments: women's UFC bantamweight champion 2 times with 6 total title defenses across the 2 reigns. Women's featherweight champion with 2 total title defenses. Most wins in UFC title fight among women's divisions, 11, and then 11 in featherweight and 8 in bantamweight. Longest combined title reign of all time, 3,974 days. Dominant 2-weight champion, first ever 2-weight champion for the women's divisions. What holds her back? There isn't much left for her to do. She's the current women's GOAT. Absolute monster, the Lioness is. Really solid boxer with just good speed and good power. Really physical at the point of attack, even when women would manage to, shed some of her strikes and try to close the distance and crash inside. It was like hitting a wall. She would just grab the clinch and dice women up with elbows. Really good inside-outside trips. At times, if she wanted to, she would trip girls and take them down and beat them up on the ground. There just really wasn't nothing she couldn't do. Juliana Pena, that fight, obviously was kind of like a fluky loss. Would have made her resume look even better. Should be her too. But you just can't argue with this resume, what she's done, how effective of a fighter she is. She's just an absolute monster. And so this is my list. These are my 20 greatest female fighters of all time. Please let me know in the comment section what you guys think about this list, where you think I went wrong, where what you thought I did right. I have a couple other MMA videos that I'm finishing up and I'm thinking about dropping, but we're about to get into football season. So I got a lot of football content coming up. I'm going to be dropping positional rankings, doing positional tier rankings. I'm going to be doing my power rankings at the end of this month once we get some preseason games done. And sometime soon, me and I guys are all going to get on, do like a mini season preview and, kind of outline who we think is, our locks to win divisions and who we think has the best shots of making it to the Super Bowl and standout players and things of that nature. Football's back, baby. And that's it for me. Love you guys. Thanks for, the views are going up on the channel. I got a few more subscribers, people hitting like and commenting on my channel. And I've been doing this for a little bit, and I'm starting to try to slowly but surely get a little more consistent at it. And for those of you who've been watching my streams, whether it's my video games or watching my podcast episodes or this type of content, I love you guys and I appreciate it. And I'll be back with another one later.